I'm curious for the panelists. I co-chair the advocacy committee of NAMWOLF, and we wrote an article on council lists. And I'd be very curious to hear your feedback about what you think about council lists, and how NAMWOLF firms can break through and get on companies, whether they have lists or not, whether they can get through and get work from them. So, Barbara or Raven, if you have any thoughts about this topic about council lists.
At McDonald's, we do not have preferred provider lists, council lists that we need to look to when we're hiring counsel. When I got to McDonald's, I came from private practice, so I got to McDonald's. When I learned that there were no such lists, for whatever reason, I was pleased about that. I concluded that those lists, and I frankly still feel this way, that I think they run the risk of excluding firms just like NAMWOLF is seeking to promote in advance. It's firms that make the list, stereotypically, because I used to be at a firm that fought to be on those lists, tend to be large law firms. Once you're on the list, unless you really screw up, you stay on it, and it can be tough to even make the cut to pitch for those lists. So I'm just concerned about the use of those lists, and if you have them, how frequently they're updated. So I'm sure if folks have great experiences, I'd love to hear about them, but I also think that if lists are ever changing and you then find a great NAMWOLF firm, can you not use them because they're not on the list? So I don't know, it concerns me when I feel as if I don't have control over who I'm hiring. And in many instances, I think it may be more challenging for those NAMWOLF firms to get on the list, whatever that list may be. But again, I've got some preconceived views on all of that. So, you have
I have a handout. I think Prudential has been through every possible way of putting a list together, taking a list apart. We're going to downsize firms, we're going to upsize firms, and at the end of the day, in certain practice areas, particularly like in the hedge fund area, there are certain go-to firms tend to be on the larger side just because of the expertise. But the good news for minority and women-owned firms is that there is no list and everyone is welcome if you can get in. And so I think it just depends upon your firm, and whatever tools you're going to use to bring the firm in anyway, you're going to use the same tools to try to get them on a list. But we haven't had great success with any kind of list. I did want to share sort of one other success story. We sent out through Joel's solicitation process. We were looking in particular, we have investment advisors and broker-dealers who have a great desire to advertise and market themselves on the internet. And so we sent out an RFP request for firms with social media expertise and regulatory expertise. Hard enough to come by in any firm. You can only imagine the NAMWOLF firms are not going to have the whole picture. But the great thing that happened was I got the results, and I was able to pick my social media firm. And I went around today, and thank you to Mr. Morningstar, I found a firm to fill the other side of the equation, broker-dealer and investment advisor. I took those people across the aisle to people they already knew, and I said, you too will become the counsel who are going to advise on social media and investment broker-dealer. Because when I went to a large firm, there is no one person who's a media expert and a broker-dealer expert. I'm going to have to get a firm to partner two people together. And this is exactly what we did today by walking across the aisle. Good thing they already knew each other, it made it a little easier. It's like introducing some strange person to your father or your mother. But it's going to work out, I think, because we're going to arrange the pitch to have the social media firm go in first with some coaching. Then if we make sure that the person who actually put the pitch out still wants it, then we're going to bring in the investment advisor, broker-dealer people once we set the social media boundaries. So when you look at firms here, and I realize this is maybe a step or two ahead, when you go to a large firm, there's no one person that makes up that answer. I've asked the same question to our large firm, and I get 4 people on the phone for a collective billing of $2,000 an hour to give me the answer. So here maybe I cut the bill in half a little bit, but I'm still getting the expertise. And once you form these relationships between these firms, hopefully they can figure out that if they work together going forward, they can do the same thing. So maybe I've created another niche need, but it's an example of, in the moment, you put an RFP out, you realize you're not going to get both, but then you think in the back of your mind, if I went to a large firm, they would connect me with literally 4 different people to answer the same question.
So we have a list. There's a lot of reasons why we have it. We can debate whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. But what happened was, first I started getting hate mail from Joel about why, sent me his article about lists and everything else like that. But to be fair, I think at a higher level, leadership level, we came to the conclusion while we had a number of NAMWOLF firms, we didn't have enough. And while we had certain good intentions with respect to the list, we needed to augment our firms, which is how we went through this process and identified more. Everybody's going to make their own call. I think you're hearing from two companies on either side of me who do a lot of work. The list didn't work, but once again, part of this becomes a notion of who's paying attention to make sure that the right firms are being utilized. And whether you're inviting them in or whether they're getting on a list, you've got to figure out what the system is within your organization and figure out a way to make it work. And part of the benefit of this organization is if you're challenged like that, you can go to Joel and his team and get suggestions about how to make whatever the system is that you're confronted with work, or reach out to any of us, because we'll be happy to give you advice as to what we did wrong, what we did right, what could save you a lot of time and effort. You have, yes, sir.
Hey, Rick Hammond from Walmart. With all the talk about lists, I almost felt compelled to talk because we've dealt with the list issue at Walmart, and the number of firms we have that are approved and how many of them are then actually getting to work. I mean, there's 6 of us here from Walmart this week. There's another 160 lawyers back at the headquarters that can hire firms. So one thing we've done is we've actually instituted this new process we call Walmart Ready Events. And so we can get these firms approved to do work, but you've still got to get them in front of the people who might hire them for a case. So what we did, we had our first event last year, and the next one is actually in 2 weeks. But these firms that are approved but haven't gotten any work yet, that are minority and women-owned firms, we actually invite to the corporate headquarters. So we'll have 100 of these lawyers come to the corporate headquarters all on the same day. They're in a day of sessions where they meet with the general counsel, they hear our legal philosophy, how we manage legal work, what our diversity path is. They meet with the legal leadership. And then in the afternoon, we actually break them up almost for speed dating. And so all the IP lawyers, they go in the room where the Walmart IP lawyers are. The tort lawyers go in the room where the Walmart tort lawyers are, so that they're all together. And these people get the opportunity then to meet with the Walmart lawyers who might actually hire them for cases. And what we found is that has gotten people who were on the list but not getting any work off the bench and started getting work. So that's one way to look at it for corporations that are trying to figure out how to get more of the work in, and it's been successful for us.
I can say to Rick's point, I'm Jennifer Clark from Walmart, you always know that there's the list. You know, the firms on the list, we sort of a practice area. So the Walmart Rate Conference gave me the ability to put eyes on firms in the home office, in the environment where we need to see them. And so out of that, I hired 3 firms this last year, I hired 3 new diverse firms, based on those interactions and the ability to develop those relationships. If there's an upside and downside to the list every time, I think everybody has a different opinion, and I see both sides. But the speed dating context and that getting people into the culture, learning what we need from our lawyers was incredibly beneficial.
We have a list at Toyota. It was more by culling down from a much larger list, but once we did the hard work, it became a list, and really, it's very basic actually. It was simply an ask of the leadership in the department and the group, the general counsel. Look, we're not hitting our numbers from a diversity standpoint, and until we can, we need an exception. So there's just a simple exception to the list. If it's an animal firm, they're automatically in. And the beauty about it is, as we start to hit better numbers, we just change our numbers. We're still not hitting them, and so we can kind of do the exception a lot.